So today I am sharing about healthy self-esteem and in terms of bonding and our needs from others in order to really appreciate those who do anything for us. So first of all, I'll really start with the third thing I mentioned, which is our needs from others. And this is often because our family of origin cannot provide it. These are things that I'm writing. I wrote this a few years ago, but I would still think it's relevant, and you'll see for yourself. Check-ins, being listened to, sharing positive energy with me or you, saying yes, saying no, can hear yes and no, using I feel statements, compassionate, generous, the desire to make the other one smile, not talking about me behind my back, making efforts to help, even though they put themselves first, not hiding stuff from me that concerns me, being able to agree to disagree, respecting privacy and personal life boundaries, dynamic ways of relating. I had a conversation with this boy, Yossi, Albekerk, and his friend Ariell, Bitton, and we talked about how to deeply bond, we need access to a deep self. So this is why sometimes our family can't do it, but we do need others in our life that can. A medium for the bonding that both share as a matrix. Even vegetables have defense mechanisms. So this is how we have direct connected contact. Our hormones cannot be in fight or flight. It then becomes a defensive dance. So to really listen, we have to suspend the preconceived notions, the pre-formulated judgments, and the attachments to outcome. To really listen is to learn if deeply heard. It transforms us, it's refreshing and refining what's already known. Ideas don't need to be tested when they're in thought form. It's automatically challenging. In other words, when you automatically challenge everything, like so if we're able to just share ideas, they're in the thought form, we could consider them. But if we automatically challenge everything, it can lead to false information and being an expert where we really are not. And it could actually do damage to ourselves and others. So we have to notice when we have this negative prosecuting kind of attitude. It's negative because the onlooker cannot meet the standards either. And it brings the whole baseline of enough, what's enough, higher at the expense of someone who was actually doing their best. So now their best is not enough, right? Because they're just sharing where they're at. And then I want to share about healthy self-esteem. So there's this all-inclusive presence of everything that each of us have different names for, which is God. It descends with us when we constrict, hide, disregard, lower ourselves or some aspect or piece of the being. And this can be time, feelings, heart. So in other words, backing up again, a healthy self-esteem, to esteem ourselves. There's this inclusive presence of everything in our time, in our feelings, in our heart, intuition, and wisdom, alchemy, receiver, bridge, connection point, pulse of life, unified spiritual and physicality, peace and grace and blessings and sovereignty, and observation, attention, focus, mentality, ideology. So when we look at where we might have hid, constrict, disregarded, or lowered ourselves or some aspect or piece of ourselves in any of these areas, we have to become the forgiver. This requires releasing the grief that our repressed needs, have pressured us for the comfort and the soothing they need and require. And we recognize also that anger needs outlet, panic needs outlet. When we're not trusting God and only trusting our own self, we will end up feeling abandoned and rejected and anxious about individual stuff. And as a woman that revolves, we think about woman revolving around a man, it gives the shape or the edges, or keeps him in line as the center of his self. There's a bravery in being at the dark. The healthy feminine should not be accused of being at the nexus where light meets vessel. Only electrons give properties, also given credit. So if we think of an atom, the masculine being in the center and the feminine being surrounding, and the electrons on the outside give properties to the atom on the inside. The inside of the atom is characterized by its outside. So it's very brave to be in the dark. The outside is the dark. The light is the center. And then the outside is where you could be at, where light meets vessel, where it's dark and now there's light. And so shouldn't be, the healthy feminine is not accused of being at the nexus only. Also, they need to give, we need each one, we have each, obviously the inner feminine and masculine is what really the point is. And even like in the sense of the feminine the dignity and the sovereignty of the feminine, the malchus, which receives everything as nothing of her own. We think of the mouth, speaking, food, kissing, breathing. We really have to be honest about our feelings instead of relating to people using the old patterns of dysfunction or inadequacy. And even plant medicine needs to be used as plants and medicine in order to work, intentionality. And we can't hide that we have had a tendency to not be okay till the loved ones are okay. And that's like the dark feminine, right? She's not okay till her loved ones are okay. It's a reflection. Or not enabling others to hide vulnerabilities instead of asking for help. Because we all have some north. We all are going in some direction. And a trip is a break from perception. Like when people do plant medicine, they're tripping. They're like, it's a little glitch for a second. Or when you trip while you're walking, it's a little glitch from the path. And you might see differently, feel differently. Your heart pounds for a second. So something different. And when we think of stocks, investments, things jump in value is followed by returning to the initial. And then it's like, woo, and then here, and then slowly rising, right? So this is like, we do this too. So there's no residue in the, we'll call it a hologram. So there's like this memory of that jump, and then as we rise up, we're crossing that path again, but slowly, stepwise, graduating through. So let's say we have this experience of seeing from above, and then we come back to ourselves. This is why the plant medicines only work to some extent, because the Lubavitcher Rebbe the Chabad Lubavitcher Rebbe talks about drug usage, LSD, and so on other plant medicine. Well, I mean, LSD is the extreme. It's like made in a lab. But if we think of the naturally occurring ones, like from the cactuses and from the mushrooms and even from the weeds. And so this gives us insight, an oversight, above outlook. And then we go back to ourselves. Now we could follow that journey because it's not like there's a residue in the hologram, but it's actually our path, but we get a different way of looking at it. We don't always need to accommodate, but we can accept, reassure, validate. Everything is reasonable for some reason because of the truth being inevitable. An opponent always is arriving. That is beyond any of our calculations, because being present and being with presence is catching up to the causal energy. I'm an effect of where the cause of my experience both contains and spawns the next moment. So if I'm doing something inappropriate, it's abusive to expect someone to cushion it, absorb it. It's like I'm feeling like a victim from something from the past. No, we have to, first of all, be present enough to trust our gut instincts and have appropriate recalibration, but also we are, instead of always accommodating and enabling, we can validate that this needs validation. I can arrive into presence, and now I'm with the causal energy, not just as an effect, but an effect and a cause. Simultaneously, the effect of the experience contains and spawns the next moment. So the ethereal consciousness nature that cannot be contained in a limited vessel is when we remember that God and I are on the same side. God is not just only in me and not outside, and not only outside, not in me. There's this toward being real, a separation, kind of sharing with the other. That there's a other, that there's a self and there's other. And not forcing a strong identity onto people, but when we think of the Jewish holidays, there's Shavuot and Pesach. And Shavuot is like receiving the Torah, Pesach is a liberation. Then we have Hanukkah, receiving the light, right? And Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, which is like the liberation from the previous year. New judgments, new program. So there's like two main times during the year. So we get it, first for free, then we earn it. So first we are just getting something. And then we earn it with the light. So we become a good container, receiver, and then we bond by accommodating, yielding, compromising. We both matter. We can both be happy. We can co-create in steps that brightness which cannot be contained. And finally, I want to share, like, may he or she who takes heed of me be blessed. I started with how we have needs from others. When we catch up with the present moment and we recognize how limited we are and what we're able to offer, and then we see what others are doing for us, we become less entitled, more grateful. And so I'm going to share, these are things, whoever takes heed of me be blessed, supporting me financially, lifting me up with esteem, doesn't leave me contorted or distorted, doesn't leave me even when not physically there, someone to turn to when in the trouble feeling, room for my tradition, meets my standards, few expectations of me, effectively listens to me, checks on me, buys me a treat, writes me a letter, sends me gift or mail, never mocks my fragility, vulnerability, weakness, or powerlessness, doesn't bully or tease or taunt and expose insecurity, made art for me, cooked for me, thought of me while traveling, sent me a voice note of their thoughts, bought art for me, gave me, at that time I wrote, when I wrote this, I wrote weed, because it was a medicine for me. I would say now, gives me something for my healing, takes me on a trip or a journey or a vacation, or hosts me, whether it's for days or moments, made me laugh, found a cool present for me, held my hand, like even if not physically, brought me pleasure, whether it's sensually or in some other way, hugged me completely, warm, enveloping, self-protective, even if they don't physically hug me or physically give me pleasure. Someone with grace around the process who can be genuine and with humble dignity. I wish for everybody to deeply bond, have healthy self-esteem, get needs from others, and bless those who take heed of the needs of yourself.